To outsiders looking in, Godzilla films have generally been regarded as cheesy B-movies with men in rubber suits duking it out. On the surface, that is true. However, deep down, Godzilla films have been about much more, and Godzilla King of the Monsters is no exception. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're here to explain the true meaning of Godzilla King of the Monsters.
So you'd want to make Godzilla our pet?
No. We would be his.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Just a few weeks before the film's release, director Michael Dougherty stated in the press release to media outlets, quote, "Godzilla movies are big, they're fun, but underneath all the monster mayhem and apocalyptic destruction, these movies are allegories. That's how the Japanese initially invented and portrayed the character, and I think it's one of the reasons Godzilla has endured for as long as he has. But they are filled with metaphors, and though the themes have changed over the years, they all leave you with the same warning, that if you push too hard against nature, nature's gonna push back."
ゴジラ細胞はいくらでもある。ゴジラでもビオランテでもない。本当の怪獣はそれを作った人間です。
What he is referring to is how the 1954 Godzilla film was making a hidden political statement during a period where making any sort of political message in film was frowned upon in Japan. This was due to heavy censorship guidelines by the Japanese Film Board that was brought on by the American occupation following World War II. The film makes a brief statement on nuclear weapon testing to set the foundation of the nuclear bomb topic.
もし水爆実験が続けて行われるとしたら、あのゴジラの同類がまた世界のどこかへ現れてくるかもしれない。
But the bulk of Godzilla himself was designed to be an allegory on the devastation of nuclear weapons, through the form of visual storytelling of Godzilla leaving Tokyo in flames and leaving an irradiated trail in his path. As Dougherty stated, the strategy of using Godzilla as a political statement is something that is evident in later Toho monster flicks, though the topic has changed throughout the years to reflect on the pressing issue of the time, albeit a bit less subtle. For example, The Return of Godzilla in 1984 touched on the Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union at the time. Godzilla vs. Hedorah was an excessive message on excessive pollution, and I mean excessive. Godzilla vs. Biollante focused on the ethics of genetic experimentation, and 2016's Shin Godzilla was not shy on alluding to the slow bureaucratic response of the Japanese government following the 2011 tsunami that devastated many coastal cities. Michael Dougherty is also not shy about including some form of political allegory in Godzilla King of the Monsters either. In 2018, during an interview with Total Film, Dougherty stated, quote, "The Titans are awoken from their slumber because the planet is on a collision course with self-destruction. It wouldn't be a true Godzilla film if you didn't touch upon these things. Otherwise, you're just making a big dumb monster movie. There has to be a sprinkle of it. Otherwise, you are not being faithful to the original intent of the series."
Personally, it was really important to make a Godzilla film that lives up to the legacy that inspired it.
So, how did he incorporate these themes? Well, let's take a look, but be warned, from this point onward, there will be spoilers.
Senators, we believe that these Titans are just the tip of the iceberg.
The story begins with paleobiologist Dr. Emma Russell and her daughter Madison being kidnapped by a group of environmental terrorists so that they can use Emma's artificial echolocation device, Orca, to release and control various Titans located around the world. But during a confrontation in Antarctica with her ex-husband Mark, it's revealed that Emma was working with the terrorists all along. Why? Emma believes that mankind's impact on the Earth is leading them on a course of self-destruction. So releasing all these Titans around the world is the only way to ensure life on the planet can continue, as it would ensure that mankind is no longer the dominant species on the planet.
They are the only guarantee that life will carry on.
Not surprisingly, everyone else thinks Emma is crazy, since the rise of all these Titans around the world would cause the deaths of millions of people. But Emma is aware of this consequence and maintains that it is necessary for life as a whole to continue on Earth, including humanity. Wow, Thanos is one hell of an influence.
Our world is changing. The mass extinction we feared has already begun, and we are the cause.
So now we have our Climate Change Foundation, alluding to the crisis threatening our world. As for the allegory, well, that comes in the form of the latest monster they have released, King Ghidorah, from beneath the ice of Antarctica.
Oh, shit.
The biggest difference to King Ghidorah in this film compared to his Toho counterparts is that wherever he flies, he brings with him a Category 6 hurricane. Now, obviously, Category 6 on the Sarah Simpson scale doesn't exist, but there has been a debate as to whether or not to include Category 6 and 7 levels of hurricanes following Hurricane Irma in 2017, with those in favour of the inclusion citing how hurricanes are getting more destructive with rising global temperatures. King Ghidorah's storms do have catastrophic effects that can change the landscape too. For example, we see Washington DC ripped apart by tornadoes and lightning storms, and it is so heavily flooded by rising sea levels that ships are now able to sail through it. When you take into account that King Ghidorah was released by humans by destroying the ice of Antarctica, completely ignoring the warnings about how dangerous he is, the signs of King Ghidorah being an allegory to the unprecedented destruction man-made climate change can bring, much like how Godzilla was an allegory for nuclear devastation in his original outing, is hard to ignore.
He is literally a massive hurricane.
Which brings us to Godzilla himself. In the 2014 film, Godzilla was portrayed as a force of nature that mankind cannot control, despite the ignorant belief that it could.
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around.
That philosophy still holds true in King of the Monsters, though the illusion seems to have evolved. After nearly being killed by the oxygen destroyer, a badly injured Godzilla is forced to retreat into an ancient temple that predates any known ancient civilization. It's here that we learn that Godzilla was once worshipped as a deity. The film had earlier established that ancient mythological creatures may have been actual titans that roamed the earth as well. The film doesn't shy away from the idea of titans being worshipped as gods either, as when King Ghidorah defeats Godzilla in Mexico, there is a shot of him sitting atop an active volcano with a church crucifix in the foreground, and the sky around him ominously tinted red.
Oh yeah, sure, let's bring him in for a beer.
No, this time we join the fight.
However, the important takeaway here is why natural deities were considered sacred in the first place. Mythology from around the world is filled with so many ancient civilizations worshipping elements of nature as gods in some form or another, some of which would believe that hurting nature in some way would upset the gods and bring down their wrath upon the world. While the film never directly supports or criticizes religion, it does highlight how without a greater oversight threatening destruction, or the belief of one, how mankind as a whole has been allowed to cause untold damage to the planet with little repercussion.
Which of these titans are here to protect us? And which of these titans are here to threaten us?
So here's where this leaves us. Godzilla symbolizes the natural world, and King Ghidorah symbolizes mankind's destruction on the natural world. Godzilla nearly defeats Ghidorah on the first two occasions. The first time, he retreats. Second time, Godzilla is nearly killed by humanity, while Ghidorah is able to get even stronger by their actions. In the film's climax, the two are also joined by Rodan and Mothra. Rodan, for the most part, will bow to whichever monster is stronger than him, but Mothra plays a more important role here.
Mothra, queen of the monsters.
During the final battle, Ghidorah nearly kills Godzilla again by carrying him into the upper atmosphere and dropping him in a fiery re-entry, only to be saved by Mothra, who sacrifices herself to save the big guy, while also passing her essence over to him. The key takeaway here though isn't just that Mothra gave Godzilla the upper hand to defeat Ghidorah, but rather that she was young. Remember, she only hatched at the very beginning of the film, a representation of youth. More importantly, how powerful the youth can be with their combined efforts, and how they can make nature stronger. And how when they're in their maturity, they can pass on what they've achieved to the next generation in the hints of Mothra laying another egg as depicted in the end credits. That seems to be the film's overall message. Mankind can combat the looming threat of a climate crisis, but to do so, they have to be more respectful to nature, rather than try to control it. And it's up to all of us to teach our kids early to make progress, so that they can teach their kids to do the same when the time comes. This is why the small group of humans we do follow in the film are insignificant in comparison to these titans. If the film had focused too much on them, the overarching message about the state of the planet would be dwarfed by something insignificant in the grand picture. Climate change isn't something a small group of people can fix. It has to be a combined international effort, which is what that final shot in the film was likely representing, as these monsters came from all over the world to pay their respects to Godzilla, aka nature. I mean, this isn't something some random soldiers and one wildlife photographer can accomplish by globetrotting in an oversized jet? Seriously?
We understand that these monsters are a part of the ecosystem, so it's not about just getting there, running and gunning. There's a balance that we have to make sure that we uphold.
Of course, there is a bit of a contradiction here, in that the fanatics claiming to make a stand to prevent the climate crisis are the ones that released the embodiment of the climate crisis to begin with. So Michael Dowdy's analogy isn't perfect. Regardless, he does respect Ishiro Honda and Takeo Murata's original vision by using B-movie monster tropes to depict a political statement relevant to society's greatest concerns of our time.
This is Godzilla's world. We just live in it.
Damn right.
Check out these other great clips from Watch Mojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.